Hi, welcome to This Week in Ames. I'm Susan Guiazda. Today we check in with the Ames Police Department on what to do when severe weather strikes. My guest today is Doug Houghton, Support Services Manager with the Ames Police Department. Doug, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
So we're in the season of severe weather. It's always kind of a challenging opportunity for people who haven't grown up in the Midwest. They don't always know exactly how to react. But in Ames, we have outdoor warning sirens. Can we talk a little bit about those?
Sure. We do have outdoor warning sirens, and that's kind of the key term, outdoor. There are 15 sirens located around the city. 5 of those are on the ISU campus, or 5 additional are on the ISU campus. They sound for one of 3 kinds of events. If there's an official tornado warning, that can come from official spotters or law enforcement of the National Weather Service. If straight line winds reach 70 miles an hour or higher, and if there is significant hail, a golf ball size or larger, the Ames Communication Center will set off the sirens in town to warn people, primarily outside, that there is severe weather and they should seek shelter.
So as people are around central Iowa during this season, those standards are the same anywhere within Story County.
Yes.
If you hear those sirens in Story County, that's telling you that one of those 3 things is imminent.
That's correct. And it's a Story County standard. There are some adjoining counties that have similar standards, but across the state it does vary a little bit. Some counties are still limiting themselves to tornado warnings only. So we are a little bit more progressive.
So if you live in this area and you are not familiar with tornadoes, really it's better to have a plan before the sirens go off.
Without question, yes. And I do think people don't understand how often the 911 center receives phone calls from people who are not from around the Midwest or are not familiar with severe weather. Where do I go and what do I do? It is important for people, and particularly families, to organize what they need to do in case of severe weather, where to go, a gathering point. A basement is clearly the best choice.
This is not something you want to be deciding when the sirens are going off.
That's correct.
So before, you want to make a plan.
In advance, make a plan.
And you mentioned basements. Where else would you go?
If you don't have a basement, the interior of the building, an interior hallway with no windows, frequently a bathroom will fit that description. You want to get away from wherever the glass could blow in and cause you injury.
Now, we talk about the sirens being able to warn people outside. Again, if you're caught outside during severe weather, what are your options?
Certainly not the best situation. The National Weather Service recommends that you find a depression, a low area, a ditch, and get in that area until the severe weather passes. You want to be cautious that you don't get into a waterway, though. Flash flooding can cause problems as well. So sticking with a low area that doesn't carry water is the best choice.
You mentioned that people call 911 during a severe weather event. Calling 911 is really counterproductive.
That's true, because if you're looking for direction, that is. If you're trying to figure out what to do, it doesn't help the dispatchers who are trying to deal with folks who real emergencies, folks who've been injured, property damage. It interferes with their call. So pre-planning so that you don't have to take up 911 time is certainly a benefit.
So we're talking this week, we've been talking things like flash flooding. What are some of the kind of common problems that we have when we have flash flooding? What are some of the things that people do wrong?
Well, clearly the most common is people drive through standing water, and we can't get the message out enough to tell people not to drive through standing water. It's often deeper than you think it's going to be. Even if you know the roadway, running water can destroy roadways. There could be holes that you don't know about. So you do want to avoid getting into any running water. It's clearly better to find another route.
Now, I know people think, well, I don't live by a river. How could I possibly have a road flooded? But that pooling and ponding can happen
almost anywhere. That's correct. When rain comes, a few weeks ago, we had 3 inches of rain in a half hour, and areas of the city that don't normally flood had localized flooding because the storm sewer system can only handle so much at one time. And that water that backs up can be just as dangerous as the river or the creek when it's out of its banks.
Another common phone call we get to 911 is my power's out. Also not really the right place to call.
That's correct. The 911 dispatchers are going to forward your call onto electric services for action. So to the extent that it's possible, if citizens can call the electric distribution.
That 239-5240 number.
Correct.
Just remember that, 5240.
5240. And report directly to them. The reaction time then is increased, and it saves the dispatchers from handling an electric call.
And then finally, it's not really for weather emergencies, but we do have a county-wide emergency notification system called Code Red. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Code Red is a mass notification system. It's a process by which we can create a pre-recorded phone message and call a large number of people in a relatively short period of time. It's not quick in the sense that, in two senses. One, we cannot put that message together and get it out quickly, so it's not a response to severe weather. It is a program that helps us with flooding, for instance, when we have time to predict the rise of the river, for example. It's also not really quick in getting those phone calls out. If you're going to make 10,000 phone calls, there's only so many phone lines in the city, and it does take a little time for all of those phone calls to go out. But it is an effective way for us to reach large numbers of people with standardized message.
And to make sure that your name is in the Code Red system, how might you already be included?
The original system included people who had landlines within the city of Ames. But we certainly recommend that anyone who's interested in being on Code Red go onto the city's webpage, find the Code Red link. That link will take them to a registration page, and they can fill out the information and become part of the Code Red system.
And people can get to that link through cityofames.org/Code Red. That'll
Yes.
take them right to that entry portal where they can fill out their information, and they can receive a warning by text message, by voicemail, however they want to receive that.
Correct.
Yeah, so that we've used that, like you said, in flood situations where it's going to be prolonged. Again, a tornado is not a good notification tool for that.
It's just not going to happen fast enough for us to respond to those quickly developing emergency situations.
Well, Doug, I think we've covered all the kinds of disasters you might have this summer. Again, weather is always a concern. You obviously would encourage people to pay attention.
Yes. If you're concerned about severe weather, there are a lot of services now that provide you notification, particularly if you have a smartphone, an opportunity to connect with the National Weather Services or other services that will provide you advance notice. And I also wanted to say, we wanted to be sure and mention that if you are indoors, you should have a weather radio. One of the more effective means of getting notification of severe weather when you're inside.
And a weather radio can be bought at
any major
even
retailer.
grocery stores, I believe,
Right,
have them now.
Right. They're very widely available. They're not very expensive. You can buy expensive ones, but they can be bought for a very reasonable price.
And then you program those for weather specific to your geographic area.
That's correct. Most of them allow you to program on a county-by-county basis, so you don't have to hear the weather alerts for the entire state.
So outdoors, the sirens are there as backup. Indoors, your weather radio, and also, as you noted, a lot of those new weather apps can really let you know what's going on in your specific area.
Yes, they're very effective.
Okay. Well, Doug, thanks for coming on the show.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, if you're looking for things to do this summer, don't forget the Ames 150 celebration. Ames 150 on the 4th will keep you busy in July. On July 3rd, there are fireworks and a barbecue at Ryman Gardens, followed by the parade and pancakes on Friday, July 4th, followed by a festival that goes Friday to Saturday, July 5th. There's stuff to do for people of all ages. You won't want to miss out on this great event. Check Ames150.com for a complete list of the schedule and activities. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for watching, and tune in next week for This Week in Ames.